Good morning, guys. So today is the day that the birds actually come. I'm waiting to get a call from the post office, and then I should be heading there. They're actually coming a day later than expected, so I'm a little worried just because they've been in transit for 2.5 days with no food and no water, I'm assuming. I'm hoping that the seller actually stuck some fruit in there or something just to keep them hydrated. But unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to completely finish the run where I'm putting these birds in, just because I had a lot to do yesterday between volunteering, studying. But today, while they're in the pen, I'm just gonna finish it. I'm gonna bang it out. I planted two bushes in there actually, but I wanted to get even more cover in there just because it gets really sunny and they like to actually hide in there. So yesterday, I dug holes, just because I said in my last video, this wire gets really saggy. So I'm gonna put 4 big 4x4s in just to hold it up like this, and gives them a little more room to perch when I put the perches up. I planted a few bushes in here as well, and I'm gonna clean it up nice, and I'm gonna put roosting poles from this 4x4 to this 4x4 just so they can hang. I'm a little late to the party this morning. I have to let all the birds out still. It's 9 a.m. Usually I do it at about 6:30 when I get up. Sorry, guys. So it was actually the first night that I actually put a few birds inside the emu enclosure. I really couldn't muster up the strength to actually put any birds in here just because I felt like it was blues, but I got over myself yesterday and I put a few in here just because it's getting really crowded inside the other pens. Come on, guys. And so my mom actually had a really good idea yesterday when she came down here, and she said to split the coop in half just so that you can have, one additional bird variety or breed instead of having just this big coop for, a single breed. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put T-poles and split this in half next week, and then split the inside of the coop in half as well, just like I did with the wiring inside my other coops. And so I'll be able to have an additional breed or an additional species of bird. And speaking of new species of birds, I was actually talking to a breeder who breeds the coolest bird I've ever seen in my life. And it's not the birds that I'm getting today. It's totally different, and I never even thought to have this species of birds before. So he actually is going to ship me a dozen eggs next year. There's a huge waiting list for these birds, and he just started selling them. And so I'll announce it on my Instagram page this week. I'm still deciding whether or not I should actually hatch these birds out, because it would require me to completely do the inside of this run if I split it in half, just because they love brush, they love tall grasses, and I would have to replicate a suitable environment for them if I was to really, be serious about breeding them. They're also a vulnerable species of bird, which means that their numbers in the population are really declining. So it would actually be a conservative effort if I really, helped to breed these birds back up in numbers. And so the only reason that I didn't just put the new birds inside the emu pen was because they fly. And there's no way for me to fence off the top of it yet like I have the other runs, just because it would require maybe 15 to 20 4x4s. I don't have that kind of time right now to just dig and set a lot of poles. So for now, for this year, I'm just going to keep them in this run, and then when I breed them next year when they start laying, I'm going to switch them over to the emu pen, and it'll be one of the breeds on the half side when I split it. And so for now, this is how it's going to be, but I'm going to switch things around definitely before winter, because they are cold sensitive, so they have to be inside that heated coop when it gets cold out. Okay, so before I get the call from the post office, I have to move all these birds from the left-hand side to the old emu run, just because this new type of fowl can't live with any other type of poultry. So I'm gonna do that quick, and then hopefully head off to the post office. That was such a hassle. Whew. So I put the birds from one of the sides in here, just so they have some room. I have the duckies in here, the goslings, some Project Wheatons, and then a few of my blue layers. And so at least they'll have the open space, and the guineas are good for ticks anyways, and this area definitely needs some tick control. Well, the post office just called about an hour later, so now I'm headed there. He said we have a huge box of birds for you and to come pick it up. So I have some egg shipments I have to ship off anyway, so it's perfect timing. So yeah, they should be in my car in 5 minutes. So I just picked up the box. I checked on the birds before I left the post office just to make sure, you know, both are alive and well. And they seem perfect, and he put a little fruit in there as well. So yeah, I'm gonna let these birds out into the new run, and I'll show you what I got. I got 2 peacocks. Hi guys. And so I'll explain in one sec why these peacocks are a little special. Look at that yellow face though, and the green feathers, I love it. That's the female right here. She's a little smaller. And that's the male. They're both, I think... And that's where we land. That's why I have netting on top. Oh, that's exactly why I had netting on top. They would have flown right out. And the guy clipped their feathers too prior to having them delivered to me. So that's why it's necessary that I have to keep these guys in this run for now. See if I can get this guy off me. Hey, buddy. Oh, look at that feathering. And so surprisingly, these guys are actually relatively friendly compared to what I've been told about them. And so oh, they're just beautiful. So if you've heard of peacocks before, you've heard of Indian blues, and that's your most common type of peacock variety. These guys are at the opposite end of the spectrum, and they're closer to wild type, which is Java greens, and they're extremely wild. And so these guys are 15/16 blood from Java greens, and so they have a very small amount of Indian blue in them, but they're high percent Spaldings, they're called. So the mix between an Indian blue and a Java green is called a Spalding, and so they're high percent Spaldings for Java green blood. So they're known to be extremely flighty. They're much smaller than Indian blues, longer legs, and much more sensitive to the temperatures. So they require a specialized diet, you know, the whole list of things. And so I was worried that they'd be extremely flighty. I had green jungle fowl before, and they're beautiful birds just like this. They come from Indonesia. But you can't even hold them. You can't even look at them, honestly. They make leghorns look extremely friendly, so you can imagine how flighty they actually were. And so these guys actually aren't that bad. I'm actually relatively surprised, because it makes it easier to come into the pen and handle them, you know, without them being too stressed. And so I think both of them are a year old. She won't lay this season, but next season she should start laying eggs. And so I plan on breeding them. And when breeding 2 Spaldings, you can't breed for pure blood. You can't breed for pure Java greens. You'll always have Spaldings. So that's definitely a common misconception I hear. And these guys look extremely similar to Java greens. So if you don't know what a Java green peacock is, definitely Google it after this. And they look extremely similar to this. And so a lot of people rip off other people and pass them as pure Java greens because they go for a lot higher cost. And so this is the female right there. And this guy is the male. And it's nice because the female has 2 leg bands on her, so she's easily identifiable. And so they're just going to get used to the new enclosure. It's nice that they're relatively friendly because I'm going to be putting posts in today. I'll be in here all day today, finishing this run up for them. And so I had the option of actually getting pure Muticus. I think that's the species name for Java greens. And there's actually 3 subspecies. So there's 3 different types of Java greens you can get, and they look all a little different. And I had the opportunity to actually buy a pair of yearlings, but I opted not to just because, 1, the cost, 2, they're even more sensitive because they have no Indian blue blood in them at all. And I was really worried about the sensitivity. And so I opted just to get a little Indian blue blood mixed in. I opted to get a Spalding, just because I figured the hybrid would be a little more resilient, a little more friendly for, New England weather. And now that I know they're actually really friendly, maybe I'll actually get a pair of pure Java greens if I can fit it somewhere on this farm. I'm going to have to build more enclosures in the future. I have no choice, because I've divided every coop I can. I've optimized every ounce of space in the previous built coops. And so I actually have 1 more coop that I can bring over from my old grandparents' farm that I have yet to bring over. And that could definitely house another variety of birds that I decide in the future. So the guineas aren't too happy about the new arrival. You can hear them all the way in the background. But yeah, so these are leaning, these posts. I had a huge tree from a bad storm last year fall on it, and all the posts kind of caved in. So I'm going to fix that up today, and I'll post the progress on today's video, and if I don't finish, then definitely in a couple days. Such a cool sound. And so you can tell he has almost no tail, so you can tell he's a baby, because he almost looks identical to the female. And so he'll start developing his tail throughout this year, and then when he molts again next year, it'll come in fuller, and so hopefully it's in next summer. I've never had peafowl before, so this is definitely a first for me, so I definitely have to read up more on, how much they molt and when they're actually fully mature. So if you guys are interested in any updates about the peafowl pair I just got, I'll be posting pictures in the future on my Instagram page as well as my Fat Hen Farms Facebook page. So thanks for joining in today, guys. I'll be posting a video maybe in about 3 or 4 days when I get the emu run separated and I definitely decide on what new bird would be going in there next.